Somewhere in those lights, you're on your phone. I should have known.
All right, everybody.
Saw you cold. Wonder why you try. I'm still alone.
I am so happy to be here with you tonight on a Tuesday. It is the 23rd of September, 2025. Moving on through, and we've got a great guest tonight. And actually, it's almost, in a way, going to be like a part one of two, because we're going to have a statistical edge to tonight's topic on tomorrow night's show, the Wednesday night show. And what is that topic? Well, in large part, it is a near-death experience and a near-death wake-up call, which is what you hope most of these things are, right? You learn a little something, you get you get something jolted into you, you come back and you have an Ebenezer Scrooge kind of a Christmas morning. You're like, all right, well, you know what? Maybe I have one, at least maybe a good experience. Tomorrow we'll talk about negative NDEs. We might actually even have a negative NDE voicemail that was left for us already. But whatever the hell message you were given, whatever your experience was in that little state of limbo, what do you do when you come back? What are you going to dedicate your life to? Well, our guest tonight, that is Pastor Dave Scarlett. He's the founder of his ministry is called His Glory, and it's a global phenomenon. It's a global organization, and I think they have over like 1 billion people that have been reached or something like it's big. But it was all the turning point right there, the starting point, the seed was a near-death experience for Pastor Dave, and we're going to be talking to him about that tonight. And then in the second half, it's going to be you guys talking to you, thoughts. I have messages from last night on not only forgiveness, but I want to talk about the what Gigi Young. Well, I reached out to Gigi Young to see if she would come on the show to talk a little bit about this. I said the whole yesterday. There was something that she had put together about martyrdom, modern day martyrdom, Rudolf Steiner, Charlie Kirk, Christianity, all that stuff. The way that the unseen world works, the clockwork of the universe that we don't really comprehend too well while we're here on Earth, which is why those glimpses behind the scenes when somebody has an NDE or an OBE, I have questions concerning both of them tonight. They could really, really be insightful. So I hope you have a good time, and I hope you call in afterwards. I have a few things here I want to do. The first one up, I'm sure you heard about this. Maybe we can talk about it tomorrow for a little bit too. But apparently a wily little prankster at the UN, which should be razed to the ground and evicted and just shoved off of American soil, turned off the escalator for President Trump today and his wife, the First Lady Melania. Wily little prankster over there. And of course, Ed Krasenstein loves it.
This is hilarious.
Sure, he loves it. His little puppy boner that he and his weird mutant brother rub their puppy boners together. I should not be saying this. The pastor's coming on any second. What have I done? Anyway, Trump was sabotaged by UN staff during his visit. No doubt about it. And he had to walk up the stairs. But thankfully, he's not a dying man like the last guy was. So he was able to actually handle the flight of steps and not roll up them and tumble and somersault up them. So that's a good thing. It's a good thing. It's a good day to not be dying, right? When you have to walk up some stairs. Anyhow, that's what we have on that, but maybe a little bit more tomorrow. I'll ask Rich what he thinks about it. We have some clips from the UN speech today. We'll be able to spread it out between tomorrow, Thursday. So much is going to go on when Jay Gulanello was in, Molly from Keto Brainz at the tail end of the show, the last half hour. We'll bring her into extra innings. And then we got the scoliosis guy, Sam Miller, and so many acetaminophen stories. It's incredible. Thursday's going to be packed. We're going to need the third hour. Anyway, here's another story that I thought was incredible. You want to talk about near-death experience. A teenage boy miraculously survives a 90-minute flight hiding in a plane's landing gear. an Afghan teenager miraculously survived a perilous journey to India. Can you imagine inside the wheel cabinet of an aircraft only to be returned home within 2 hours? Can you imagine wanting to get to India so bad that you climbed into the wheel cabinet of an aircraft and just hung out there at 30,000 feet for 90 minutes? I have to get to India. The boy survived the 94-minute long journey. Then he went back home, or from whence he came. Surviving inside of an aircraft wheel well is extremely rare, with most stowaways succumbing to hypoxia, hypothermia, or injuries from landing gear mechanisms. He could have clung to the internal structures to survive, said somebody there, Mr. Ranganthan. Without such conditions, survival at 30,000 feet would be impossible, while low oxygen levels cause rapid unconsciousness and death. At above 10,000 feet, temperatures between negative 40 degrees Celsius and 60 lead to frostbite in under a minute following hypothermia. But of course, this is something where after takeoff, the wheel bay doors opened, he got in, and then likely the enclosed space may have pressurized, which allowed him to survive. So there you go. Of 128 cases of stowaways assessed by the U.S. Federal Aviation Administration between 1947 and 2020, more than 75% ended in death due to the extreme dangers of the wheel well. In January, I didn't know this, two teenagers were found in the landing gear of a JetBlue aircraft. They were discovered during a routine post-flight maintenance inspection at the Fort Lauderdale Hollywood International Airport, Florida, on January 6th, officials said. Another damn January 6th. The carnage continues. So, very easy death to avoid, everybody. Just don't do that. One last thing I have is from, Cincinnati Enquirer? 150,000 pounds of radioactive shrimp sold at Kroger, recalled by the FDA. Okay, 150,000 pounds of radioactive shrimp. When we were watching the video of RFK Jr. as a trip sitter, didn't he say something about radioactive shrimp? Did you eat the radioactive shrimp? Didn't he say something about that? This happens often? If not, that's pretty prophetic. Over 150,000 pounds of frozen shrimp sold at Kroger and other stores have been recalled due to potential radioactive contamination. The shrimp may have contaminated with cesium-137, a man-made radioactive material that can pose serious health risks. The recall included specific lots of Kroger raw colossal easy peel shrimp, Kroger Mercado cooked shrimp, and Aquastar raw shrimp skewers. If you've got any of that in your house right now, do something with them. Do something with them. Don't eat them, though, but get them out of the house. Get your Geiger counter out next time you go to Whole Foods or your favorite sushi joint or Kroger. Make sure you bring your Geiger counter next time you go out. How often do you think something like this is done by agents of a competitive industry? Like perhaps it's baseless rumors about radioactive shrimp pushed by lobster and crab industry, like Big Lobster. If Big Lobster came after you, if you were like a part of the shrimp industry, you think it's all overlap? Because I think that once people hear about bad seafood, they don't want to touch anything. But shellfish, Anyhow, that's that. Make sure that you check your shrimp, and we'll be right back. Don't go anywhere.
You let one ant stand up to us, then they all might stand up. Those puny little ants outnumber us 100 to 1. And if they ever figure that out, there goes our way of life. It's not about food. It's about keeping those ants in line. That's why we're going back.
Does
Does anybody else want to stay? Let's ride!
Before we introduce our guests tonight, I want to let you know that the super chat raffle for tonight, everybody who sends a super chat, a question, a comment, a shout out, a joke, just send some love on YouTube, on Rumble, on Quite Frankly Superchat.com, which helps the show more directly and more fuller, but it doesn't matter where it comes from. And of course, the gold pills. Tonight, I am giving away. Tonight I'm giving away a copy of Chris Ann Hall's book, Sovereign Duty, signed by Chris Ann Hall. And you're also going to get a DVD copy of Non-Compliant 2, which is her presentation on the importance of the sheriff. Okay? I've got some of her. So you're going to be getting two amazing things here. This book is essential, especially when you talk about Article 5 and so many other things. This book is essential reading. I've had it on my shelf for years. So this is the nightly raffle. And when you send in a super chat, you are automatically entered into the raffle that we are going to give away on Friday. And that is the electroculture basket, which actually has some really great stuff in there that you can't even see, including Jane Barlow's LDM 100, which everybody should have in their house for cold and flu season, especially with the kids and all that. Huge. So across the board, you got to be in it to win it, and it helps the show in a huge way because we are not the big boys that make $10,000 a night in super chats. So I've got to give you really amazing things. I've got to offer it up and say, I'd love for you to have this, and we'll make it work. All right. So here's what we got going on. We're talking about near-death experiences. And I guess you can consider being a stowaway in a plane a near-death experience. But if you maintain consciousness for the whole 94 minutes, then I guess it doesn't really count. But it counts for our next guy because he went to a place that many of us just think about. And I want to talk about this tonight because it led to bigger perception, open perspective on where we are as a species and where we're going next. And that man that we're bringing on is Pastor Dave Scarlett. Now, Pastor Dave Scarlett is a dynamic Christian leader and founder of His Glory, a global faith-based media ministry dedicated to spreading the gospel. His profound journey was marked by a transformative near-death experience. That's where we're going to be hanging out tonight for a while. That revealed divine purpose and healing, which has, as detailed in his book, All for His Glory, the near-death experience of a modern-day Job. And you can see it right there. That's it. That's what's going on. And we've got him on with us right now. Pastor Dave, how you feeling?
I'm good. How are you? Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
I'm doing well. You know what I was just saying before? Whoops, that's the wrong one. What I was saying before is that whenever we think about near-death experiences, we always hope that it would be like waking up on the other side of Ebenezer Scrooge's 3 visitations, and you have a glorious Christmas day, and you have a whole lot of perspective, and it's a watershed moment in your life where you have some choices to make because you know where it all could end up. And I can't wait to jump into this. But first, thank you for being here tonight. And before we get to your actual experience, tell us a little bit about your life leading up to this NDE of yours that transformed everything.
Well, in high school, I had an opportunity to play Division I football. I turned a Division I scholarship down and joined the United States Marine Corps. My grandfather was a fighter pilot, lieutenant colonel in the Marines in World War II and the Korean War. So I just felt this sense of wanting to serve my country, and I wanted to be a Marine like my grandfather. We were the only two on either side of our family trees that actually served in the Marines. So I served in the Marines, got out of the Marines, and then I rose my rank up the rank of the corporate world. I was a director of 3 Fortune 100 companies. I was the number one director at AT&T Wireless, ran the number one market. I was the youngest director in the history of AT&T. And I thought I had the world. I had money, I had fame, I had a trophy wife, and knew famous people because of all the connections we had in the business world were sports and entertainment. And I had a big head. And I was full of myself. And I was a 911 Christian. So that means I'd only pray when I was in trouble. And then once I got out of it, I'd go back to my worldly ways. And then God changed that all on 777. And you know your days are divine by the Lord when it's even to the day. 7 is completion. Triple sevens are his triple completion. And that's the day that I ate the botulism toxin inside a chili dog. It was the 7th month of the 7th day of '07.
You know, this is this is interesting because I knew that there was some sort of there was a poison component there, but we were just talking about this recalled 150,000 pounds of radioactive shrimp. And you know, I hope somebody hope there are not people out there that are on the path that you were, you know, kind of hacking your way through the brush of the afterworld. And but this is incredible there, really incredible. You were stationed in Japan, I read. Is that true?
That's correct. Yep. I was security forces for the 7th Fleet. That's a naval station that is one of our top communication stations for the 7th Fleet in the Persian Gulf. And so we were security forces there in Kamisea, Yokosuka, and Atsugi, Japan.
Wow. Wow. So seen the world a little bit and of course done big things. But you know, when you're talking about the balance of life and death and the eternity of the soul, then any kind of earthly occupation really just pales in comparison. So let's talk about the botulism.
Yeah.
Where were you that night? Where'd you go out to eat? Where the hell did the chili dog come from?
That's a miracle in itself. I was at the time I was a global director of global sales for a publicly held company. So I was just got back from overseas. I think I was in Europe at the time. Came back and it was extended of the 4th of July weekend. That's why I got the toxin on 777. It was a couple days after 4th of July, and I stopped real quick to get some chili for hot dogs, as you do on a 4th of July. You do a barbecue. And the miracle about that was that I had 3 young children at the time and a wife, and nobody but me ate the toxin, which is unbelievable. They just didn't want to have it, and that was a blessing from God. And then I didn't know what it was. I started seeing double vision. I was on my way to church, and I couldn't drive. My wife had to drive us to church, and I thought I was just tired and overworked coming back from overseas, and because there hadn't been a case of botulism toxin once I did get into the Cleveland Clinic in 70 years. So the doctors didn't know what it was. That Monday, I went to the emergency room. Our doctors didn't know. They sent me back. At the whole time, botulism toxin shuts down your central nervous system. So you start being paralyzed from the inside out. Means all your bodily functions start to go. You can't walk. I had slurred speech. I sounded like Daffy Duck. I was talking to my boss at the time, and he thought I was playing a joke with him, and it was just I couldn't speak. And then it progressively got worse and worse and worse. And then literally at midnight on Friday the 13th, I was checked into the world famous Cleveland Clinic. And that night, they tried to they had to put me on a breathing machine, a ventilator.
Wow.
Because you can't breathe on your own. You can't eat on your own. You can't do anything. You just completely shut down. They lost me that night. My wife had a call at 3:00 in the morning that they had a scare that I flatlined. But that wasn't my near-death experience. So a couple days, it was probably about a week after that, they got me stable enough that they thought they could take me off the breathing machine. And I'll never forget this day. because watching two Cleveland Clinic doctors start to take the breathing machine away from you, and all of a sudden you can't breathe, and you see the panic on their face. They just both were in panic, like, what are we going to do? We're losing him. And you would think of not being able to breathe, that'd be kind of like drowning. When we were in the Marines, we used to always say, what would be the worst way to die? And it wasn't being shot, because that was pretty quick. It would be something like drowning, because you can't breathe and you have the anxiety of not being able to breathe. And it brings on a lot of anxiety and fear.
Yeah.
But I didn't have any fear. The Lord took that fear completely away. He took me up to the third heaven. And here I see things in heaven that are just outside of our reasoning. Is the beauty, everything was like a television technology that doesn't even exist. It was so crystal clear. The sounds were so beautiful. There was like music that you've never heard before, and just so beautiful. And just the smell, you could even smell heaven, that it was just glorious. But the two key things I take away from that were just the amount of unconditional love that's all around you. It was truly perfection. And you just have this sense of peace, this sense of shalom, and God's perfect heaven. And so then he showed me these pictures of my life, mahogany pictures, these beautiful mahogany pictures from the time I was an infant all the way to the age I was at the time of the botulism toxin. That was 39. And these were pictures that were never taken on earth. And he later told me that inside those pictures in heaven is perfection. There's no sin in heaven. So there was nothing that I did wrong in those pictures, because sin had been wiped away. However, he did show me that there was nothing in those pictures that I did good for him. So I had an empty report card. And he said, my son, I'm going to send you back. You're going to start a ministry called By My Name, His Glory. And I'm like, ministry, me? And I was just in awe that I was in heaven. So as soon as I get back and they stabilize me, I'm like, I can't believe, because I'm the least likely person running corporate America, and the friends I had at the time that least likely that this would happen to. So when this happened, I get back and they get me stable. And I said, you know what? I didn't see Jesus when I was in heaven. And I prayed, and I couldn't talk, but I prayed that through. And before that prayer got out completely, there he was at the end of my foot in the Cleveland Clinic ICU. He didn't say a word. He was just standing, and he was like in the book of Revelation, just completely, just beautiful, just shining white, just a beautiful light. And that sense of peace and that sense of unconditional love came back, and the piercing blue eyes that I saw of him. Again, he didn't say a word. He didn't have to. He gave me that shalom, that peace. And then from there, I went through, 2 days, 2 steps forward, 5 steps back. I had 7 surgeries on my stomach. I think it was 5 or 7 surgeries on my stomach, because they had to put a feeding tube in because I couldn't eat on my own. And so I had internal bleeding, so they had to stop or do those surgeries. I woke up in the middle of a surgery as the surgeons are opening up my stomach. That's something you never want to go through. I had collapsed lungs. I had pneumonia. You name it, I had it. It was a fight just daily, just to survive.
How long were you?
The Lord was with me every step of the way.
I'm sorry to interrupt. How long were you? Was your entire stay, and how long were you gone? Like when you had
my entire time in the ICU, I was 2 months in the Cleveland Clinic ICU, and then I was another month in a rehabilitation where they you learn how to wean you off a breathing machine, because the Cleveland Clinic couldn't get me off that, because I had a third death, a second near death experience about 2 weeks later. This time they tried to get they had all the top Cleveland Clinic doctors in there. There's probably 30 doctors in the room, because they wanted to make sure it was going to go smooth this time, because they lost me twice. And so they got it ready, they pulled, and immediately the beeps went code blue, code blue. Ironically enough, my kids were in the emergency room. They heard the code blue. They didn't know it was me. They're running around saying code blue, code. They didn't know what code blue meant. That was their father going up and flatlining again, literally. And I just remember floating above the doctors, because I was looking down and seeing the doctors' faces. And again, I had this sense of shalom. I had this sense of unconditional love and peace. I'm like, I asked the Lord, I said, why are they panicking? I feel absolutely perfectly fine. I feel great. And he said, again, my son, you're going to go, I'm going to send you back. You're going to start a ministry called By My Name, His Glory. So he did do that. He sent me back, and then on a long long rehab, literally learning how to talk again, walk again, eat again, stand again. All of it took a few months, literally. And just amazing what the Lord has for people who trust him.
So 3 flat lines, 2 experiences.
Yep.
And now when it comes to being on the outside and be able to be the observer from an angle of something that you weren't there to witness, there's always something to that it's inexplicable. And for somebody to essentially bilocate and to be able to give testimony, accurate testimony of things that have happened in places or from perspectives that they could not have gotten if they were conscious, I'm always very interested in that stuff. You know, a lot of people, whether they have faith or if they are religious, any religion or not, when they hear near-death experience stories, they're always checking boxes, and of course one of the things there is how long were you dead, and do you think is this by any means a creation of your mind when you are in this traumatized state and just kind of like dancing on the brink of eternity or not? How do you in your mind, in your heart, in your gut say and come to the conclusion, no, this was bigger than my my synapses firing in an unconscious state and taking all of my my religious experiences from my past and formulating essentially a hallucination in a time where I could have just been gone forever? What do you know? How do you know it's separate from that?
Well, there's many things. I can get into the date of the 777, and I'll fast forward that to Ricky Skaggs, and that was a message I asked the Lord. So that's a shofar. But as far as a technical or a scientific or a medical, many people thought, well, he's because they put him on morphine. Well, when they wean you off a breathing machine, you have to be able to breathe on your own. So you have no medication to slow you down at all. You're as sober as you possibly can because you need every ounce of your body to literally breathe again. So the 3 times that I died, I flatlined 3 times. I think the longest was like just under 5 minutes that I was dead. There was a top doctor in the Cleveland Clinic that Friday night that came in, and it was a miracle that he was even working. He's probably the only one that could have saved me that time. But the real key was the second time where I was floating above the doctors. This nurse who's witnessed it all, she was kind of skeptical. She's like this, and they forget that you can hear in your bed. Just because I can't talk, I can still hear. And she's saying, she was telling some doctors, she's saying, well, he thinks he went to heaven and he thinks he was floating above you the second time. And I'll never forget this. I watched both doctors looked at this nurse, and she was like the head nurse there. And when she talked, people usually would listen. And these doctors looked at her, and they both said, I don't know what happened in that ER, but we've never seen a light above that room ever like what we saw.
Wow. See, and it's interesting because I've even had an experience with family members dying at a certain time in a hospital while we've been home as children. And there's lights and electricity, very incredible. It's just incredible. I don't know what goes on there. Lights that have gone out, flickered. There's just, the timing is nuts. And you're talking about an intensifying of light inside of the ER while this was happening?
Yeah, that's the doctors, both. So, 2 of the doctors. There were only 2 doctors talking to the nurse at that time. So I don't know if all 30 doctors witnessed that, but these 2 doctors didn't say, yes, he did, because obviously they weren't inside my body. But they said as long as they worked at the Cleveland Clinic, they had never seen a light like that shine above where I said I was looking down on them. And the nurse never said another word again. And she was a talkative nurse, so that kind of stopped her from talking. And I don't know if she started believing. But the biggest part to your question is just the prophecies of this. My mother had prophecies about me years before even taking the botulism toxin, that I would be part of my father David's kingdom. I would be working for his glory, literally the word his glory. And I always looked at those prophetic words and was like, yeah, okay, I don't understand the prophecy back then. I didn't understand prophecy. And I kind of kept the matter in mind. But the clincher was when the Lord said, I'm going to send you back to start a ministry called by my name. He said, it's called your call. This is your call. And so when I got back and was starting to rehab and I finally got home, I was praying to the Lord and I said, well, Lord, you took me to heaven. I want to see a vision of what this call is. Give me some kind of confirmation that you really have called me out of the world, because I was going to go back to the corporate world, that you called me out. So out of the blue, literally, this video comes on my email, and the email had no return email address. It was the strangest thing. And I worked in telecommunications, so I understand a little bit about technology. It was impossible to get an email file from somebody there was no email coming. So I was like, what is this about? So I looked at this. It was 10 minutes long, and it was called The Call. And it was about blowing of 300 shofars. And Ricky Skaggs, the musician, was blowing the shofar in Nashville, Tennessee at that time. I thought, that's very interesting. It's called The Call. So I happened to look down on the date that he actually blew it. It was none other than 777, the same time that I had the botulism toxin. So fast forward probably about 4 years ago, I didn't know who Ricky Skaggs was at that time. In the course of 1 week, 3 people introduced me to Ricky Skaggs. Ricky Skaggs and I became friends. Matter of fact, he writes the foreword of the book, All for His Glory. I invited him to Tulsa, Oklahoma to speak to about 8,000 people in attendance, and millions were streaming in. And he blew the shofar that day, and the same shofar that he blew on 777. And the Lord told him, give that to David. This is his call. So in front of a million plus people online, 8,000 or more in Tulsa, Oklahoma, Ricky Skaggs gives me that same shofar and says, the Lord just told me this is yours. It's called The Call.
There's a lot. You know, it's personal revelations are something we talk about on this show a lot, where it comes in different forms all throughout the year when we bring it up in topics. And it really just comes around to, you know, sometimes it's hard to make people see things, the importance of things that have been sometimes shown to you with almost at sometimes in such an intimate way that it's very hard for anybody else to really understand. So this really goes under that category for me. I love listening to this stuff. And I know I was going to ask you about physical experiences, physical sensations, but you're talking about even smells that you brought up, phantom sensations. What about time? I know you said this was not a long time away, but as far as time dilation, we always hear about people who have left their body for one reason or another, that there is not only losing a sense of importance of what's going on Earth, but also a sense of time as we know it on Earth too. What can you say about that?
Well, you know, I never really knew how long I actually died for until I got listeria. I got listeria and I went into the Cleveland Clinic. This was in 2015, I believe. I got listeria, and that was not as deadly as botulism toxin, but I'm the only known survivor of botulism toxin and listeria. So when I go into the Cleveland Clinic, they're like, I can't believe you're walking, because there was 9 of us that got the botulism toxin. 7 died. And as of like a year and a half ago, the 8th was still on a breathing machine, and then me. So they were like, I can't believe it. So they walked me through my medical records that I never heard before. And the longest I was considered dead, flatlined, was like just under 5 minutes. And the other one was like 3, and the other one 4, or something like that. But what I experienced when I was in heaven, that first near-death experience, seeing the mahogany pictures, the smells, the breathing in, and just the look of heaven, that couldn't have been less than 30 minutes our time. So I was definitely outside of time and space, because there's no way all those pictures, because they were moving so slow, and every one of the 39 stopped and let me soak it in for every picture. I vividly remember every single picture. So I had to be at least minimum 25 to 30 minutes that would take. So heaven is definitely outside time and space.
I'd have to imagine. There's also a surprising number of negative NDEs, and I don't know, since you guys Since you've had this was back, you said in 2007, which,
Yep.
the day of the sevens was actually pretty important for me too. Not in this way, but this was back in 2007. Since then, especially since it's become such a big driving, a driving story in your life, that it's the focal point of your book and of course your ministry. Have you spoken to other people who have had similar experiences, NDEs, but in particular, people who have had negative near-death experiences? Because I'm curious about those, especially by people who otherwise may have thought they were living a rather uneventful, maybe even bland life, to think that they might be in some kind of mortal danger of losing their soul forever. I get those. Well, I get those from time to time, and they really freak the hell out of me. So I wonder what you've picked up over these last 20 years.
Yeah, I was curious. I didn't write the book. That's what happened in 2007. We didn't write the book until late last year. So it took 17 years to write the book, and I didn't want to write the book until the Lord told me to write the book. And there's three phases to this trial and tribulation. Believe it or not, starting his glory was probably a worse, harder trial and tribulation than actually dying, because Satan did not want this ministry to get off the ground and reach as many people as we reach today. We reach about 25 million people or more in every country of the world. So we were a threat to him. But yeah, you're right. I studied near-death experiences. They're very similar. Matter of fact, people always ask me, what did Jesus look like? And that's hard to explain what Jesus looked like. But Colton, the little boy that went to heaven, the little girl, heaven is real. This little girl who drew the picture of Jesus, that showed Colton and it's in a book. I think it was in the second book of Colton's series. And I was going through a bookstore one day, and I picked it up, and I said, "That's him." The same Jesus that Colton saw was the same Jesus, identical, that I saw in heaven, without a shadow of a doubt. So I studied those near-death experiences, and then I really got very curious about the other side, like you're referring to. What happens in hell? And hell is not only real, but truth is in hell. So when we hear that Christ will be the King of Kings and Lord of Hosts, and every knee will bow, that doesn't just mean in heaven on earth, but that means in hell as well. You can't lie in hell. Truth is even in hell, and it is torment. And there are some people that have gone to hell that thought they were going to heaven, and they weren't. They thought they were saved, and they're not. And that's probably my biggest message to people watching this today. There are a lot of people that are going to church on a daily basis, because if you just sitting in a pew doesn't make you saved. I can go out in my garage, and it doesn't make me a car. We have to have that love relationship of Jesus Christ. And there are people that think they're saved and they're not. And near-death experiences that have gone to hell have shown that.
I have a question for you about something that when it comes to the actual the experience being exclusively Christian for you, because another thing I always take note of when I collect these stories and I talk to people is whether or not everybody is having the same experience, whether or not before they got into this deadly predicament, they were Christian, or they were they were religious at all. They believed in God. They could be atheistic, just nothingness. And sometimes it is that way, but other times people who have just as profound experiences, they come back with stories that are a little bit more pluralistic and a little bit more ambiguous as to who's running the show. They feel the presence of God. They feel a togetherness. They feel an eternity beckoning. But all of those hallmark images of Christianity, including seeing the face of Jesus, sometimes that's not there. What do you think about people who have more pluralistic experiences, that it's not an exclusively Christian experience?
I couldn't speak to those, but those that I did research, there's a guy, I can't even think of his name off the top of my head. He's been on his glory, and he's wrote a book about this as well. I think he studied over 170 near-death experiences, both heaven and hell. But there are Muslims. There are Muslims that I've seen stories, and I believe it's in his book, that actually went to hell, and they were told the truth, that it's not Muhammad. And they went back being fully all in on Islam, and gave their life to Christ. And we're seeing that kind of signs and wonders throughout the Middle East, Iran, today. So they believe in Jesus, but not the same Jesus we do. They believe Jesus is a prophet. He's more than a prophet. He's the Son of God. But we're seeing signs and wonders from people in Gaza Strip, for example, Iran, as I said before, having signs and wonders and in near-death experiences when they've gone to hell and said that you're on the wrong path.
And now you are reaching. First of all, let me just say, yeah, I hear those as well. The conversion stories from people who are religious but of another religion, or have no faith at all, and all of a sudden they are confronted by the thing that they have been, thumbing their nose at for most of their life. Those are really compelling stories as well. There's just so many varieties of this. I wonder how you've processed it all. But either way, that's something that has now put you on a path where you're reaching many, many people. They're reading your books. They're being touched directly by your ministry. And I wonder, you said you used the phrase all in. Mm-hmm. And I was thinking about that there too. When you talk about the world that we're in right now and preparing ourselves for all things, because the scary thing about life is, and we've seen it, we've been reminded by it many times over the last month alone, is that regardless of how well you feel right now, you feel good right now, you feel strong, you feel limber, you have, whatever, everything can change in a damn moment the next day. It could be something that's kinetic. It could be, something that happens in traffic, whatever the hell it is. So preparation, there's chaos in the world in that respect, but there's also chaos in the world around us in unseen ways in the spirit world. And people are starting to feel that right now. And we talk a lot about going all in. Well, there was a lot of indifference, and there's a lot of lukewarm, unmotivated kind of feelings out there about our place in the spiritual realm and what eternity means for us, who right now we are just so connected to a temporary physical life. It's very hard for us to even contemplate eternity when we are counting a few short decades until it's time to pass the torch to another generation of humans. What do you think about the people who are starting to see things happen in society and say, you know what, there's a lot of senselessness, a lot of barbarity around us, and I want to look inward. I want to get healthy. I want to get out of debt. I want to clean and organize my house. But most importantly, I want to feel something spiritual right now. It's almost like society is going through a near-death experience at the moment. What do you think about that?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It is and was a near-death experience, specifically for the United States of America. We were on the brink of death before this last election, whether you like President Trump or don't like President Trump. We were going down a hill that we would not have recovered from. And I truly believe that all the bad things that happened in COVID-19 was the start of waking people up. I'd noticed it when I traveled all over the country. At first, people would come up and we'd pray over people for hours. The first year or two into COVID, when we were traveling the United States and all cities and states, the people were saying, "Pray for me for this, my family, my finances, my brother, my hip." It was all over the place, but it was more around everyday things. That changed just a month before the presidential election. I noticed when I was in North Carolina praying over people, and this is when the storm hit North Carolina and people were hurting in North Carolina, everything changed. We probably had about 5,000 people that we were praying over in North Carolina, and every single person that was around me that asked for prayer, it all changed. It was no more, I need this for my health or my friend or whatever it may be. It was always, I want the Lord to tell me what his plan is for me. What is my purpose? And that is the central key. Now people are saying, what is my purpose? You could be Charlie Kirk at one moment, and the next moment you're not here any longer. You could be 39 years old like I was and never called in sick in my entire life. And you eat some botulism toxin and you die 3 times. Where are you going to spend eternity? And when you spend, that's number one, where are you going to spend eternity? And number two is while you're here, what are you going to do about it? And I believe what Charlie Kirk is happening to America and the world is, pun intended when I say this is truly a turning point. You're starting to see people question what is life for? What's the purpose? You're seeing people who are atheists, agnostic, saying, I don't know if this God is real. I don't know if Jesus is real, but he's got to be real. I'm going to at least explore it because there's definitely evil in the world after what we've seen. And you're seeing a record number of people go to churches. You're seeing a record number of people opening up the Bible. Bible sales are off the chart. People's relationships and purposes are now, what is it? Instead of doing their corporate world, like me, I was in the corporate world. I was the highest, almost the highest you could get in the corporate world as a director. And it was empty. And it's, what are you going to do with this gift that God has given you after you've gotten salvation? It's how many people we bring in to him. That's what it's all about. So I know Charlie. He's in heaven. He's been promoted to be with the Lord. And what he did to help start this revival, this really fire revival, I think is not going to slow down. And this is part of the billion soul harvest that's upon us.
We always talk about the armor of God. Hear that a lot, and it's a line that's dropped a lot. And if you're operating in a war zone, you wear a flak jacket. But Kevlar doesn't protect the heart and the mind from all the types of things that we're getting from media sources. From it doesn't matter what it is. But every faith, how do you in particular go about your day with that? How do you keep that shield strong? What are your daily devotions? What do you do to keep that strong? Because every faith has their traditions. There's purity rituals. There's amulets, there's scapulars, there's prayers. But, I just wonder, as we get closer to departing tonight, what are some thoughts that you would leave people that would keep their shield strong?
Well, the reference you're talking about is Apostle Paul in Ephesians 6:10, putting on the full armor of God. Remember, Paul said, we're not fighting against flesh. We're fighting against principalities, spirits in other dimensionalities. And that's absolutely true. So you have to put the 5 elements. Out of the 7 elements, he talks about 5 being defense, the shoes, the shod, having the breastplate of righteousness, the helmet of salvation. But there's 2 offensive weapons. And we have to take the offense. And being a Marine, I'd rather go on the offense than get hit and hit and hit. And that's the word of God. You got to start each and every day in the word. That's the offensive weapon. Once you get into his word, it completely changes the way you go about that day. It goes and changes the way and your perspective about everything in your life. I remember when I was first coming to the Lord stronger through my marriage, but before my near death, I was doing stuff that got me in trouble at HR at AT&T, because in my sales meetings, I was telling all the sales reps that work for me, that every answer to every question is in the Bible. And it truly, literally is. And God will give you the answers to that. But that's how he speaks. He speaks through his word. And if you want to know him, you got to get into his word. And that's the key, is start in his word. And the 7th of the elements is praying. Praying is intercessor prayer. That's the carpet bombing of the enemy. We have to have prayers. We have to have prayer warriors. We have to have intercessors praying groups that are lifting up, because the Lord sees and hears and feels. A censer bowl goes up to heaven and he reacts. There is so much power in prayer. And that's the other thing I want to tell any grandmother or grandfather or mother or daughter. The prodigals will return. Don't stop praying. My mother prayed for 25 years. She gave me my first corporate promotion, a Bible. And that Bible collected dust for 25 years. But miraculously, every time I moved in the corporate world, somehow it got with me. And in that, she put, the secret to life is not how high you get up the corporate ladder. The secret to life is the treasures in that book, his word. And I have that book, his Bible, with me today. It was the most precious thing. And that's the power of a mother. Praying, and interceding for their children. Don't ever give up praying. It may take 25 years like it did with me, but don't stop praying.
Let me ask you this real quick, because you're talking about the 7 elements right now. And And then before you were talking also about levels of. I think you said would you say that you went up to a third level of heaven? Could you talk about how you see the actual construction of heaven, the levels and what they are?
Well, that I'm just basing off a biblical. So the third heaven would be at the throne room of God. Satan controls and domain on the second heaven. That's where we're at today. That's why his leash is. He's on the warpath. You look at all the evil in the world. This is a battle versus good versus evil. And the first is in Sheol. But with complexity and quantum physics and dimensionality, one of my mentors in the Bible was Chuck Missler. And the amazing thing is Chuck put it in such a great scientific perspective. We're living in at least 10 dimensions today. A lot of scientists believe we're in 20 dimensions, which means we're basically a hologram and heaven is around us. And that's why we can't see the heaven or the angels of heaven fighting these principalities of Satan around us. That's why you see in front of me the shofar. That is so powerful to blow the shofar, because that is the enemy does not like the blowing of the shofar, because that's God declaring war in the heavenlies, and that activates the warrior armies. And that's not just something that just came in the Bible. This is real. You activate them. They do not like the shofar. Demons do not like the name of Jesus Christ. I've chased demons out of people in Liberia. I never saw a demon in my entire life. Growing up in the church, nobody ever talked about demons. Until there, I was in front of many of them, and I didn't know what to do but pray and use the blood of the Lamb, Jesus Christ, and that authority in the name of Jesus Christ. Those demons just, you can hear them whistling away.
Yeah, we were talking about this last week with our guest, one guest who is a retired psychotherapist, who would really spent a lot of time with the criminally insane. And of course, there was so much time spent where everybody is just insisting that these voices that some people would hear were being generated from inside, some kind of a biochemical imbalance. But he started putting together that this was a spiritual malady. There was an attack here, and that scriptures, but especially the name of Jesus, was, as he said, it was like throwing worms onto a frying pan. That's what the result was. It's just crazy because the more I speak to people that come in on these topics, and especially if they come from a biblical perspective, because we've talked to people who are a little bit more secular in their analysis of this. It's really crazy how interdimensional the Bible actually is. And you start piecing that together a little bit more as you get into it, and of course talking with people like yourself. But it is truly we're talking about dimensions. We're talking about the construction of reality. It's baked into the whole thing, though it is sometimes just a little bit too cryptic for people to pick up very bluntly. So it's great to have these conversations with you. And now, Pastor Dave Scarlett, the website is hisglory.me. The book, of course, is All for His Glory, the near-death experience of a modern-day Job. And tell everybody a little bit about the work you're doing right now, how they can look you up, what you're going to be doing next, all of that stuff.
Well, this coming week, I'll be in Tulsa, Oklahoma at a business convention with Eric Trump and Clay Clark. So we'll be there. We travel all over the country, all over the world. We'll be going to Greece next year. If somebody wants to go to the footprints of Paul, we have a Greece trip, and then we'll be back to Israel next year as well. But as I said earlier, we reach 25 million people. We have two different networks. We have hisglory.me, which is our 24/7 programming of shows that are around the clock. They may come from interviews to what you see behind me is our daily show called The War Report. And what we do in The War Report is just show you everything in the world through a biblical lens so that you know that this is good versus evil. And when you know that, and you know God is in control, you have a lot more faith and comfort. We do normal church services on Saturdays and Sundays online. We do Bible studies. We do Mac Bear and Cheese, which is a Bible study that I started when my son was very little, that older people actually love as well. But you might see me interviewing Eric Trump to General Flynn to one of the top doctors, you name it. They've been on His Glory. Some Charlie Kirk, we talked about, friend of His Glory. Been on many, many times. So some of the most influential people in the world, including pastors as well. Rabbi Jonathan Cahn was just on. So we're a place to people to go and get a biblical lens of what's going on in the world. And once they get a little bit deeper in why it's going, we give them that content, that Bible studies, those to get them deeper and to understand the Word of God. Because one of the reasons why we're here is a failure of the church by not telling the whole story. Once you understand some of the things that they pulled away from the canon of the Bible, it fits into place, like the book of Enoch and the fallen angels and the Nephilim. Then you see this literally is a demonic war versus God in heaven versus Satan, who was thrown out of hell. And then the second platform we have is hisglory.tv. That is our documentaries, movies. We did a Holy Land with Mickey Willis. We did 3 movies with Nick Searcy, the actor, on January 6th, The Truth of January 6th. Lara Logan has documentaries. She's on our network as well. Her regular show, Going Rogue with Lara Logan, is on our network. And now we're starting to get really big into music. We believe music is going to be a key component to the youth. And I believe this revival is starting with the youth, and we're going to see the youth take off. That's why I said again, mother, father, grandfather, don't stop praying about for the prodigals. They are going to return. We're in the season of returning of the prodigals.
I'm with you on that one, and it's really impressive to see just how big this is. It really is, and the people you have on board, and I'm really happy that I was introduced to your work just over the course of the last few weeks, and it was really wonderful to talk with you, and I hope that we get to do it again soon. And yes, so Pastor Dave, thank you, and please, whatever you do, stay away from the radioactive shrimp. If you shop at Kroger, don't touch any of the shrimp, because you've already been through enough, and we want your stomach to be ship-shape for the next 50 years.
On every July 7th, I celebrate the anniversary of that botulism toxin with a chili dog. I literally do, because light wins.
Oh, man. I'll tell you one thing. I just might be too superstitious. I don't think I would ever be able to give up the chili dogs, but I would have one on the 6th or the 8th. I think I would just avoid
No, when you know God's in control, death does not faze you one bit.
I really appreciate the time you have tonight, and thanks for everything, and we'll talk to you soon. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, and God bless.
God bless. There you go, everybody. There you go. Hisglory.me and .tv. So what'd you think about that? Hopefully we have a new friend. We've made a new friend. Hopefully we've made a new friend. I have something over here I'll read on the other side of the intermission. I'm going to go to your super chats and all that stuff. So get them on over. So just to be a part of the conversation tonight, but also we're going to be giving away some great stuff. I wouldn't be surprised if Pastor Dave knows Chris Ann Hall. I really wouldn't be surprised. Anyway, this is more appropriate tonight than ever. So throw in for Sovereign Duty and, of course, Non-Compliant 2, the Sheriff. It's a signed copy, by the way. We'll be getting it out to you. We'll get to that on the other side of the intermission, which will be brief. So stick around, get your phone calls ready, because I want to hear your thoughts. I want to hear about your experiences, negative, positive, indifferent, whatever the hell it was. Briefly, you can put together any kind of story about personal revelation that really relates to tonight's topic, and I'll be there to take your call. We'll be back in a second.
Welcome to Intermission.
Yeah, intermission.
to school, back to school, back to school. Well, here goes nothing.
Do 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 do. All right, so here we have. I've got this. Actually, let me take some of the super chats, then I'll get to this other thing I have. Kobe Shumway says, great discussion. Thanks, Pastor Dave. And I put Kobe on the list for tonight. Jay Britt says, book me. You got it. I got you in there. ST says, I love this, Pastor. Thank you. Thank you. God bless. I have worked as an educator in Cleveland Clinic. To your health always. Thank you, ST. We've got such great nurses out there. I have a couple of things I've been building up for spooky nurse stories. I really hope that all of you nurses, you get in touch with me and say, Frank, I got a spooky nurse story. And I'm going to put together a thread very soon. Revolution says, just shout outs to Stowstube and Cajun Lady Sarah tonight. Well, there you go. The brotherly love. And Stowstube just threw a little something down, so he must be feeling it. He just must be feeling it. Thank you, Stowstube. Running on Empty says, thanks to Molly Arty for her beautiful artwork and your copy of The Body. I want the book and the DVD too. You know what? You have as good a chance as anybody to get this book and the DVD with Chris Ann Hall's John Hancock. Right there. And I'll even write a little something in there too, of course, as I always do. Let's see. Road Trip says the radioactive shrimp saboteur is Big Anchovy. Oh, you don't want to cross Big Anchovy. You'll be sleeping with the fishes, the tiniest. Let's see. Max Meeks says a shirt, no soap basket. We're releasing a new shirt tomorrow. The new fall, Quite Frankly shirt, the merch store is starting to get better and better. You got to go get yourself a Goodfellas shirt, the Matt and Frank Goodfellas shirt for Christmas, but you got another one coming tomorrow. It is a beautiful seasonal release for spooky season, but it'll be good for all year. All year. I can't wait to show it to you guys tomorrow. Thank you to Shane B for helping me design it. And for Adrian at Rise Attire for putting the finishing touches on it. Fantastic. It's so good. I can't wait to wear this thing. And it was so good and it's so seasonally appropriate that we also made it available in hoodie as well. So you take a look for yourself tomorrow. You'll see it. All right, let's see. Road Trip says the radioactive shrimp saboteur, Big Anchovy. Max Meeks, thank you. Joe Martinez, thank you. And then Max again says, don't smack me, Frank. Me love you long time. You know, I think after the show is over tonight, when we are doing when we do our extra innings, we're going to do music dedications again. I love that so much. The music dedications the other night was so fun on After Hours when people called in and dedicated a song to somebody. It just puts us on a rabbit hole of all great music. Stowstube says, I love that Revolution guy. I hung out with him once. Yeah, he did. They had a cigar together. In fact, I've got a bumper that they made for me somewhere. I don't know what the hell I did with it. I'll find it. Over on Rumble, Natwall3330 says, love the show. I'd love to win that basket also. Don't worry, Natwall. Hold on. Natwall 3330. I'll just put that in there. You'll be good. Good to go. Stowstube is in there too. All right. Over on Rumble, we're going to keep going. Thank you. That's all we got over there. And then we have Uncensored Abe and Sean Joe on Pilled. So here's what I have for you. Now we're going to start taking calls. 914-200-0269. 914-200-0269. So I have over here a text message from a great late friend of mine, His name is Father Tom Provenzano. And my buddy Benny out there, he knows him well too. And unfortunately, Father Tom died not too long after we had this text exchange. And it was one night on this show that we were talking about the locality of heaven. Do you believe that heaven has locality? If so, where is it? Well, Father Tom had an opinion on that, and he sent this to me. He said, Frank asked for, because we were talking about Arnold Schwarzenegger that night and his kind of like black-pilled thoughts about death and the afterlife and all that. But he gave me his thoughts about Arnold Schwarzenegger. But he also said, as for heaven, Frank, I do not believe it is a physical locality at the present time. That will change with the general resurrection. In the Creed, we profess that God created all things, invisible earth and invisible heaven. St. Augustine wrote that the invisible does not refer to a place, but to the heavenly creatures, angels. The account of the ascension from Acts says that Jesus was lifted up on a cloud. The letter to the Hebrews speaks of Jesus passing through a veil into the heavenly tabernacle. I'm sure there's another passage I'm forgetting. I think it's in one of Peter's letters that leans toward this idea of Jesus passing into what we would call another dimension. John's visions in Revelation could be interpreted either way, I think. The resurrection accounts where Jesus is constantly appearing and disappearing and passing through walls makes me think that we are dealing with some kind of interdimensional travel. Fulton Sheen taught that Jesus passed into another dimension as well. To put it simply, my thought is close to one of your callers who talked about where your show really is, and not to eat oysters during the summertime. To go back to... oh, that's right. We were talking about oysters. Actually, we're talking about oysters making people deathly ill. I think somebody had died in Missouri, in like St. Louis, because of a bad oyster. You see, everybody be careful. Don't eat too exotic this weekend. Something's weird going on. There's way too many references to shitty food in this episode. Don't eat too exotic. Stick to peanut butter and jelly sandwiches for a little while. Jay Gulanello be damned. To go back to Augustine, though, God, in a sense, is heaven. Since God is everywhere, the invisible reality of angels and the blessed souls are joined with him. We cannot see it, but it is all around us. At times, God chooses to tear away the veil to show us what is hidden. To our natural eyes, apparitions of Jesus and the saints are not so much our Lord or the Blessed Mother coming from heaven as God opening the veil for us. There you go. And then he gave me a random tip. He says, raw oysters with horseradish, vodka martini up, or an ice cold beer. That's how he would take it. Vodka martini up with horseradish on the oysters. And then he also says, thank you for ruining Baker Street for me. Yeah. I think that we were talking about Baker Street being like being one of those. I could just see all the snooty yacht rock guys from like Greenwich Avenue who listen to it, and they have the salmon colored shorts on and their flip flops or the loafers with no socks or something on like that. The golf shirts and the messy hair. Apparently that ruined Baker Street it ruined it for me too. Whatever. I like Baker Street. I like yacht rock. Especially around like June and July when it starts getting really hot. I like it. Put on the Yacht Rock channel on Sirius XM all the time. 412, you're on the air. Go ahead.
Hi, my daughter had brain surgery.
Oh, wait, hold on one second. I'm having a mishap with the music. Okay, you're on. Go right ahead.
Okay, my daughter had brain surgery and spinal cord surgery when she was 6 years old. And about 2 months after the brain surgery, we were watching Unsolved Mysteries or one of those shows, and someone told their near-death experience. And she randomly piped up. She scoffed, and she goes, that's not how it is at all. And I just looked at her, I said, what? And she said, no, it's not like that. She said, you go into a crystal room, and everything is beautiful, and the whole ceiling has mirrors on it, and in every mirror is a kind face, and they love you and they wish you well. And I thought that was so cool. And my mom at the time was like a church lady. And when my daughter was being operated on, my mom had activated this prayer chain that you can't even believe. Like, everybody was praying for my daughter. And I like to believe that all the kind faces she saw in the mirrors, she never died on the table as far as I know. But I believe she was seeing all the people praying for her when they had her brain shut down to work on it.
Oh,
So anyway,
do you mind if I ask your name again?
it's Margaret. I'm the one who had the age progressed vision while I was waiting for her to be wheeled in.
I remember this. I remember your voice, but I this is a familiar story to me too. Did you call in years ago about this?
I don't think so, but I'm a weirdo. I might have.
It's such a great story.
So.
You know what it makes me think about? It makes me think about my my physics teacher, Mr. Payne, and I've told the story on the show a couple of times over the years too. And he promised us if we all got, once we all passed our final exams and stuff like that, and it was our last week before graduation, he would tell us his near-death experience. And we said, okay, all right, expecting that it was going to be, we didn't know what to expect, but finally the day came, and we all gathered around him in the in the classroom, and he told us about this at this time in his life where he was scheduled for a very serious brain surgery. And I have since learned about the procedure and how they go about it. But when it, depending on where they are going to try to access inside of your skull, they will essentially hook you up to dialysis, and they will start chilling your blood. They will bring your blood down in temperature to bring all of the tissue temperature down, to preserve the brain, to allow a little bit more time for the doctors to go in there and operate without causing any kind of lasting damage on healthy brain tissue or whatever the hell it is. So essentially, it's bringing you down to a point where you're dead, but you still have a pulse. But it's very strange. And so he's telling us the story about this surgery that was forthcoming in his younger in life. He was in his 20s or something like that. And he said, the night before the surgery, I'm just sitting in the bathroom, and I'll tell you one thing, kids, you can have your doubts about God. You can have your doubts about what's on the other side. But when you're in a situation like I was in, you're talking to him and you're hoping that somebody's listening. And then the next day he said that he had this experience where he essentially watched his own surgery from outside of his body in a cold, kind of like a bluish, whitish observation room. Now that could be some kind of influence on the chilly nature of his physical self, but it's an observation point that you can't put a physical explanation to. You're on the outside, and I think what's interesting about this is, especially with your daughter, is that even though they're in a place where they are unconscious and they are not present at the moment, that even though they are in a state that very closely mimics death, they are still attached. Even though they're in the vicinity of their body, they are not detached from the body. That there is almost like a leash. There's a silver cord, if you will, that keeps you within proper proximity of where your spirit is being housed for this lifetime. It's a very interesting thing, the whole idea of proximity when you have somebody that is outside of their physical bodies.
Yeah, they went in and worked around the cerebellum. I don't think they had to actually cut into her brain. They made room for the cerebellum at the base of her brain. So I don't know that she did chilling things, but I thought it was amazing that she received that. Your gentleman earlier said, "Don't stop praying." I really believe she felt and she visualized all those people's prayers. Like, she saw all the kind faces praying. You know what I mean? She said, she didn't say they were praying, but she said they they love you and they wish you well, which is praying for you. You know, essentially, she said in every mirror on the ceiling is a kind face, and they all love you and they wish you well.
Wow.
And she was not old enough to be sophisticated to make some crap up. She was 6.5. You know, she was a little girl. And she just randomly, after this person told their story, she's like, well, that's not what happens. So anyway,
well,
great show. Thank you.
Thank you for throwing that in. And how old is your daughter now?
She's 33, and she's very, very pregnant, due in December.
Congratulations.
So we're so excited.
Congratulations.
We're so excited because that may be, according to people, you know, at 6, that was never going to happen. So we're very, very excited.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful.
And
Aurora, in many ways, is a miracle baby, and we're praying for a second miracle. Anytime the Lord sees fit, we're praying for a second. But thank you so much, and I hope that makes for an absolutely blessed, glorious Christmas this year. So all the best to you and the family.
Well, the baby's due on St. Nicholas Day, and he's the patron saint of children, and also on my husband's sister's birthday. So she's got all the angels pulling for her.
Well, thank you, and I can't wait for the happy news. And send an email and let us know when the baby arrives. Okay.
Okay. Thank you, and thank you for such a great show.
Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you. Take care. All right, let's go. Let's keep going. 860. You're on the air. Go ahead.
The baby arrives, okay? All right, give me just 1 second here. We're that far off. All right, hello.
Okay, go ahead, Willie.
Is this Frank?
To a degree, yes.
All right, yeah. Near-death experiences.
Well, I know you've had a few.
About, right? Well, my kind of want to think about, you know, and gather them up. And like one of the first ones was when I was fucking around with a tractor, right? And I was rolling backwards down a driveway and pulling hole shots and shit, right? And then I came on to the finally, you know, if you spin the tires enough,
yeah,
he'll catch traction, and then that thing will smash you in the face, and then you throw it off you. So that was like also, it wasn't really near death, but that was a Superman thing, right?
No doubt.
The near death shit that I've had has been car wrecks, right? And the first one was a big flash, and I came back right away. The second one was I was in a swimming pool and you know, broke my neck and died. That flash one, I came right back quick. You know, near death experiences you're talking about, right?
Yeah. Did you have any? Wait, hold on. Wait. Hold on, Willie. Just because I want to make sure we move along pretty decently tonight. Just cut to whatever experience you had where you had more than just a flash. If there was anything where you are in a place and there is a prolonged experience that is not of this world, that's what I want to hear right now.
The second one, I was gone, right?
Yeah.
And like I said, right, I never seen what everybody else is seeing, but I did see the flash and I did see the dark, and then I came back and it did change my life entirely after you lose your life, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You still there?
Yeah, I'm listening.
All right. So that was the big thing. I think you mentioned that a little bit. Yeah, it changes your whole prospect on everything. When they tell you that you have died and you don't know you died, like, you know, I ain't saying that it don't happen. My wife, I mean, I was floating around and saying shit, and people told me other shit after the fact, right? I thought it was just the dopamine, heroin, whatever they give you when you're in the hospital.
Yeah, they give you heroin, straight heroin.
Well, it's morphine, I guess they call it.
Oh.
Right, the button, whatever. However, regardless of all that, right? My shit never went farther than that, but it never was dark for long. I always came back to the light, right? Where other people have stories that are longer. And yeah, I've been declared dead a couple times. So I wanted to just, you know, say that.
Hey, Willie, what do you think? Do you think that this could be right now? This could be your a prolonged near-death experience. What if you're in a coma right now for the last 40 years or something like that, and all this you talking to me right now is just a dream? This is all.
Nah, Nah.
You don't think so?
I paid too many taxes and did too many things. I guess it could be like fake bullshit all around, but I don't believe that at all.
No? Okay.
Because I ran around in a storm with an Indian at Woodstock 2 at the original site, and we saved some people's lives. And when you save some people's lives, to bring them back around from when they're almost dying to bring them back, it's a thing and a feeling you get. And I've saved some people before.
Okay.
And it's I don't even know how to explain it. The CPR, whatever, changing the thing. You don't even have to do the whole 9 yards, but you see the light come back to them.
Yes.
When you mess with people.
Well,
when you save a life.
Yes.
I mean, I'm not bragging.
We got
nothing,
okay.
but
I know you.
I run the danger.
I got you. You put us all to shame with the saving many lives, including your own. Thank you so much, Willie. We love you. Let's go to the next one. 252. You're on the air. Go ahead.
All right, man. What's up, Frank?
Hey, who's this?
John, North Carolina.
Oh, what's going on, John? Good to hear from you.
Yeah, man. If you don't mind, I'd like to talk about the subjects that you had yesterday. I tried calling in and couldn't get through.
What was yesterday again?
Forgiveness and the Charlie Kirk stuff, the memorial.
Okay, yeah, you can make a quick statement on that.
All right, and I believe that heaven's all around us, man. I mean, especially if you're a Catholic like myself, when we go to Mass, it's right there. We're there, where heaven meets earth, right there. We got the host, we got Jesus Christ in flesh, body, soul, blood, right there. But forgiveness, man. I just got back to my Catholic roots and going to confession. The examination of conscience, it tells you how to get through wrath and be able to forgive. For anybody that's going through that, I know it's hard. I have a problem with wrath, dude. I have road rage. I'll react in anger and all that, so it's something that I've been dealing with myself. The Charlie Kirk effect, the memorial, dude, I was watching the memorial as my Chicago Bears whooped the Dallas Cowboys ass. I was watching, flipping back and forth, and my son, who's 11, he was watching and he was getting choked up as people were talking, especially when the pastor started talking, and he's like, oh, I can't handle this. And he went to go sit over by the back door and where the dogs were chilling and hang out with the dogs, and he started crying. So I called him over. And I think that's going to have an effect on a younger generation. Our kids our conservative kids that are seeing this and the effect that Charlie Kirk had, because we were explaining it to our son how he was killed. He was killed with a sign that said Jesus Christ is Lord, Christ is King right above his head. Prove me wrong, I think is what it said. So, I mean, I live in Eastern North Carolina. There's not a lot of Catholics here, and Mass was packed, dude. I had to stand in the back for the first time ever out here, so that's also the effect.
Okay.
Other than that, man, I'm just trying to get done, get off the air for you, man. Have a good night.
Well,
I love all these subjects, man. Having Timothy Gordon on, you've had a profound influence, your show, the subject matter that you cover sometimes, on getting me back into my faith. And then also on the theology side, you've exposed me to a lot of good things, man. You're doing good in the world, Frank. I love you, dude. And keep doing what you're doing.
Thank you, John, and all the best to you and the family. Thank you. And like I said, have a great night. Have a good flight. Whenever I have a question about things are above my pay grade, I usually bring them in. Like I said last night with Megan Fox. She's better than Megan Kelly. With Megan Fox is, I'm not the guy to come to for anything other than bringing on somebody who can answer my questions. You can listen to me talk to them, and I'm glad that you guys are finding some value in it, whatever it is, and I thank you. Let's see here. Benny, my buddy Benny Farina is out there watching live tonight. He says, may Father Time rest in peace. Buon anima. Great show, Frank. Well, it's good that you heard it, Benny. I saved all of his texts and a couple other people's texts who are no longer with me. My friend Linda, my dear friend Pam. I saved those texts. I also emailed them to myself, so I have them saved, but I can't delete them. I also cannot delete them from my phone. So we will run with that until there's nothing to run with anymore. Here is a voicemail from Pete in Canada. Take a listen to this.
Hey, Frank, they only give me 90 seconds to tell this story, and it's like an epic one, so I'm going to just try and get it out there. It's Pete from up in Canada. When I was 27, I went through a major breakup that wound me up in the hospital. I had 2 huge surgeries. The second one left me with a massive scar from the bottom of my ribs to the top of my pubic bone. On the 3rd day after that second surgery, the morphine stopped working, and I felt that incision, man. It was bad. I writhed in pain, the worst pain anybody could ever feel. For a good long while till I passed out. Now, here's where it gets freaky. When I passed out, it was a psychedelic experience like no other. I truly believe I experienced hell. I was alone in this cosmic darkness, and all I could feel was this judgment that I could do nothing about. I couldn't ask for forgiveness anymore. That much was over. There was nothing you could change. You're there. And it's not like you're not in a pit of fire, but that's a great way to describe it. It's more like you're sitting there with God and he's just really disappointed. And man, that doesn't sound too bad when you say it, but when you experience it, it's something else. Anyways, that's how I got all spiritually in tune. There you go, bud. Hope you have a good show. Take care.
I'm telling you, that's the piano tuner showed up. The piano tuner showed up. That'd be an easy way of getting it done. Oh, all right. Let's see here. Thank you, Sean Joe, over on Pilled with those gold pills. All right. Well, hey, this can go any direction. Any direction. Let's see. Grace. Grace just left a nice, beautiful tip again. Thank you so much, Grace. 2 nights in a row. I don't know what I did to deserve this. Hey, Frank, important message for all. For by grace are ye saved through faith, and that is not of yourself. It is the gift of God, not of works, lest any man should boast. Ephesians 2, 8 through 9. Love tonight's show, Frank, and I want that basket. Well, geez, I might have to start making a new... I may have to start making a new rule where people can... If they want their names counted more than once, then it has to be above a certain, I don't know. If it's a true raffle, people can buy any tickets that they want, any amount of tickets that they want. We'll see if I can spice this up, or maybe I can do first, second, and third place prizes and all that. Because whenever I announce a winner, I always feel bad for everybody else. I know you can't do that, but I do feel bad for everybody. 631, you're on the air. What did you think about tonight's show? There's a lot to talk about.
Hey, what's going on, Frank? It's Moses from Long Island.
Oh, every once in a while, I get like one call from Moses a year now. It's so good to hear from you. How's everything going? How many more dozens of children do you have since the last time we spoke?
Still the same 5, man, but they're growing quick.
Yeah, I know. I mean, we've been talking since you've had like what, 1?
Since I had my first, and then right after that, you had Aurora. I remember how happy I was for you, man.
Yeah, thank you. Hey, you know what? Before we continue, because I want to hear what you got to say nice and clear, you're either on speakerphone or a Bluetooth or something that's making you sound like dog trash.
How about now?
Oh, gosh, you sound great.
All right, awesome, man. Frank, I just wanted, because it's kind of going to tie in together a little bit. So the other day you had somebody on talking about, with the addiction and the taking certain things for it that helped out. And you remember that show, obviously, right? It was a couple of days ago. And the one thing he didn't speak much about, that kind of, because I'll be straight up, I've had my battles, and the one thing that really, I tried everything. Didn't try that, but the one thing that pulled me out was actually digging deep and jumping into the Bible and having a real relationship with God, with Jesus Christ. And, I didn't hear him mention too much whether that actually helped people like towards being spiritual or not. I wish he would have spoke more about that, but it was still an awesome show. So that being said, for me, man, I know a lot of people that have had this struggle, and unless you have a connection with God, unless you have that relationship, like an actual relationship where you turn to him and you speak to him like he's your best friend, or like somebody that you could really talk to, and at the same time, like, you ask, for strength and all that stuff, when at the hardest moments you really want to do the wrong thing. To me, that was the only thing that worked. And there was, like, I know the topic's is a bit about like miracles and stuff like that. There was, I've seen a situation where somebody in my family back like 10 years ago was overdosing, and not overdose, they were completely overdosed. We called the paramedics. Paramedics showed up. They did the Narcan thing, no effect. They did the shockers, boom, no effect. Another Narcan, another shockers, another Narcan. And then after the third Narcan, the guy, the paramedic was like, all right, we got to call it. And they were pulling the bag. They were getting ready to put my cousin in a bag. And his mom was there watching this, and she screamed out and asked God, please. Her exact words was, Lord, if you could raise Lazarus, you could raise my son, please. And my uncle would not let the guy go. He said, get the hell down and get my son back up. And he said, listen, I'm going to try one more time. And after that, police is on their way or whatever. We got other people we got to try to save. And sure enough, Frankie, he went down there and put the shockers on him one more time. And he just woke up puking everything out inside of him.
Jeez.
And it was like the most surreal thing that's ever happened in my life. And, it felt like, I don't know, I felt like I was in a movie, man, watching this whole thing.
You feel like you witnessed something. You almost like a debt needs to be paid at that point. And that loyalty.
Anybody who knows anything about addiction, Frank, knows like if because it's all through God's grace that there's like people that make it and don't. For the last 10 years, you don't know what the hell fentanyl was going to be in the last 15 years. So like, people died, people didn't die. Sometimes I wonder why I didn't. It was all God's grace, right? But when you do make it and you go through the program or you do get help, you realize first, more than anything, it is your duty to go and help others. And that's kind of like the only way you can keep it, really, which is it's kind of crazy how it works.
There was somebody, it was 2 weeks ago. It was at Mass 2 weeks ago. And it was right at the end. It was right before the final blessing. There is that moment after communion where sometimes someone will go up and they'll read off a couple of quick announcements from the bulletin or something like that. And instead, this day, a young kid from the Bronx went up there. He couldn't be more than 23 years old, and he was representing a small, house. You say like a crisis center, a men's crisis center, but a young man's crisis center from the Bronx, and how it saved his life, and everything he went through, living on the streets, the crime, the drugs, the drug addiction, the estrangement from family, and all that, and how all of it got flipped around, and he was there representing this house there too, letting everybody, all the parishioners that day, know that there's a place for anybody, and he essentially is paying that forward. And you hear a story much like what you're talking about right now, and to see people all cleaned up and on the other side of it, it's wonderful to hear, and then to also see people so inspired to go ahead and take that baton and run with it, because that if you're not if you don't create some sort of if you don't create any kind of momentum forward for new people who are going to need help, then the progress stops with you. That's why it's so incredible to hear these things that happen to you, to people in the audience, to Pastor Dave, and have it leave such an impact on you that it changes the entire trajectory of your life. So I think it all relates.
So Frank, if I can too, I just want to leave a message out there to everybody, right? And here's the common grounds between addiction and between your spirituality and whatnot. Most cases, right? And that, like the majority of cases, it takes somebody hitting like real rock bottoms to be able to be in a position where you open up and are receptive enough to God's words, or receptive enough to recovery, to trying somebody else's way, because your way just obviously doesn't work. So like, I just want to leave a message out there to those people who don't have an addiction problem, who don't, maybe your life isn't too crazy, but you know something's missing. You don't have to wait for rock bottom. You don't have to wait for everything to go upside down. You know, most of us do, but you don't have to. You can reach out. You can just dive into the Bible. You could dive, you know, there's so many meetings for all different kinds of things that people have situations with. The whole problem, and I'll leave it at this, the whole thing is that most of us think we're so unique in our defects that we're afraid to go out there and talk about it or say that we have these problems. And that's why people hold it in or hide from it, or, you know, they just don't want to like talk about it or admit it to anybody, you know. But the people that you're most safe opening up to is other people like you. So you find a group, you find a meeting with people that are dealing with what you're dealing with, that have been there and know what it's like and know how to move forward. And, you know, as far as spirituality, you go to people who are there and have been there and know how to, you know, how to dive into this stuff and walk you through it. There's so many people willing to, you know, because like exactly what we were just saying, because there's people there that want to pay it forward. So thanks for letting me call, Frank. I miss you, man. I hear you. I watch you all the time. I just, you know how it is, man.
It's all right. It's all right. If I get one call a year, I'm fine with that. So I'll talk to you next September.
We'll see what happens.
We'll see next. You know, you got to give me a call for Christmas at least.
Absolutely.
All right.
Absolutely.
All right. Sounds good. Christmas call-in show.
My kids love you too, man. They love when they hear that show, the beginning of the show, man. They love it.
Good.
I said they know most of the song. They're like, you know, with the ants and everything. They know more than I do. It's hilarious.
See, I had to keep some things. We're going to reproduce the entire opening, but at least we know that we're not going to have to get rid of the real essence of the intro music itself. So I'm glad that was all taken care of, especially if I ever really reconnect with anybody that is a human being at Spotify, which I'm still trying to pull strings, but the strings, they go nowhere. Thanks for the call, Moses.
You got it, Frank.
Okay.
God bless.
God bless. I have an email here. So he was talking about, I guess it was the night that Matt Xavier came on, and we were talking about the psychedelic DJ. I had one person get in touch with me about that. So I'll read it, because I have a couple of emails from that. I have this all saved for like a mailbag, which maybe we can get into on Friday night, because Friday night I'm going to be live this Friday night, because I said I'm going to do a couple of Fridays in a row, because next Friday, the 3rd, we will not be on air, and I will play a rerun on that night instead, which will only be on Rumble, to be honest, because there's too much stuff in it that can't be on YouTube. But here it is. This is from Andrew. So Moses, let me know what you think in an email or something, whatever. I'm always one step behind with you when I listen, but I can say this. The human body has specific endocannabinoid receptors within it. I believe in God. Jesus Christ is my Lord and Savior. I was made by God, who placed those receptors within me. Being Roman Catholic, I have questioned the Vatican. Look at what Vatican II did. The simple fact that the church has removed important aspects of God's word, anyone looking to open themselves up to appreciate the majesty of God's work within and the within an external world, within and external, would benefit from psychedelic experiences. I have often on throughout my life done this. Recently, I had an experience, and it has cleared up a lot of problems I was struggling with. I had PTSD from combat and my profession. I'm a strong-willed person, an alpha, if you will, but I have also attempted to relieve some mental anguish by allowing God to control my life. My recent experience has brought me closer to Jesus Christ. Right mind and right place, and opening myself up to Him allowed me to see His plan and have more trust in Him. It might not be for everyone, but if you have faith in Him and go into an experience with an open heart and mind, people can benefit from it. True believers are under constant attack from the devil, and if you don't really believe that Jesus is your Savior and are trying to find that connection, then maybe an experience isn't for you. As for me, Christ is King, Andrew. So, I've said this many times whenever I have Dr. Albert Taylor on, who's a former Catholic, former Christian, because it's not even like he jumped church to another denomination or anything like that. His experiences out of body into the astral plane has brought him more of a pluralistic view of what's going on the other side. That's why, and he's not the only one, of course, but it's that's coming up on Halloween. In the last 3 years, we got to talk to him on Halloween night. But so I picked stuff like that up. And in general, whenever I talk to somebody who is either talking about psychic mediums or remote viewing or out-of-body experiences, especially being able to trigger your own out-of-body experiences at night and go gallivanting around the universe or wherever the hell you're going, it is going to be met with downvotes and warnings about demonic possession and everything else like that. And I say, okay, well, just like putting a 6-year-old behind the wheel of a running car, there's going to be issues there when you take somebody or an entire species that has the collective experience of a 6-year-old behind a motor vehicle when it comes to the true innate abilities of our mind, of our soul, and how much ability we have to step outside of ourselves and connect in much greater ways. I mean, what does that really do for you, too? I mean, you think about right now during our lifespan, you want to talk about the potential importance of mankind. I mean, think about here we are. During your lifespan, you are essentially a steward of the earth. You are one of the stewards of the earth. That's one thing I think that we all have a duty is to try to leave something behind, leave this place behind a little bit better than how we found it. But you just see how some people treat your average Airbnb and you realize why we have so many problems. Well, I think that there is so little known about what we actually can do. You think about during the time that we are stewards of this earth, what if one way of being able to understand where we're going next or to get ideas is to actually connect with something outside of ourselves? God, for one, but the entire universe was created by God, and there seems to be just information, like rivers of information just floating all around us, ideas coming out of nowhere. Things just manifest out of nowhere. Thoughts, ideas, light bulbs going off all over the place. And if you quiet yourself a little bit, you can pull it from anywhere. You could bring it into dreams, pull it into the awake world. So I think about all the tools we leave behind just because we have absolutely no education on it, and everybody by and large is just scared to shit of it all. And it is not a bug. It seems to be a feature. Why would it be a feature if we can't touch it, we can't connect with it? Our endocannabinoid system. Why is interacting and consuming any part of the hemp plant, cannabis, a sacrilege? I mean, anything that you abuse is bad. Anything you abuse is bad, but I think about this stuff all the time. And that's also where the whole armor of God thing comes in there too. That is part of education. How do you go into the world? If you go into the world if you are being brought up on a farm somewhere and you're being taught how to go hunt, when you learn how to hunt, you know everything that you're doing, how to set up for the hunt, how to track whatever is going on. You're out there in the woods, but it's not the wilderness, because you know exactly how you're going to get along. You know how you're going to camp out for the night. You know what to do when you're in your perches and all that other stuff. You also know what firearms to carry for personal protection in case you come across a mountain lion or something that doesn't like you being there, something other than the deer that you're hunting. What if you come across some sort of an apex predator that would otherwise hurt you? These are all the things that you learn going into that wilderness. Well, the wilderness of the mind and outside of that, it's exactly the same. And I have to imagine that if you're going to use those tools, that it's best to have that armor of God on, that you're going into that place knowing who you've given your life to, and in whose hands you trust your life, and in whose hands you trust your soul. So that's the way I look at it. That's the way I look at it. But we don't have education on it. We have wrist slapping. We got a lot of wrist slapping. That's all. Wrist slapping from people who have been wrist slapped by people who have been wrist slapped by people who've been wrist slapped. And I'd appreciate it if that's why I just appreciate the dialogue, because sometimes it just, boom, it dies on the vine. Can't even bring it up. But there's got to be something to all of this. The near-death experiences, the out-of-body experiences. You know, the psychedelic therapies for candidates that it makes sense for. So 914-200-0269. A couple more calls, and then you know what? Here's another thing I'll bring up, because I said I was going to do this. This is from Gigi Young. What do you think about this in the last 45 seconds? That 15 minutes. Gigi Young, and she, I think, is a self-proclaimed psychic. We'll see if she gets back in touch with me. Now, she had said something over here. This was passed along to me about Charlie Kirk and martyrdom. But it led off with the Rudolf Steiner, so I immediately wanted to talk about it, because he talks about the makeup of other worlds and our moving through it, and how our misunderstanding of how the unseen world works is really what saps us of all of our power, because we give these leeching forces all the food and all the sustenance they need by doing things like falling prey to propaganda and trauma-based mind control, anything. Any kind of public trauma that creates fear and anguish. So she said of martyrs, Rudolf Steiner once spoke about martyrs, saying, and I am paraphrasing, that when someone passes, if they are young and especially if they are rightly attuned, their etheric body, which is full of life energy, becomes a substrate available to the angels. A substrate available to the angels. This giving of one's own body, of life body, to the angels of the spiritual hierarchies is what creates a martyr, or a true servant of God. It is not that the angels need our life force to exist, but rather that the angels can work more directly through a once living etheric body, which creates an amplification of the angels' power on earth. The spiritual science behind the martyr is that the life energy of a human being is stored in the etheric body. And when someone passes, whatever life energy is left does not disappear when they pass, when they die. That whatever life energy is left does not disappear. Instead, it is absorbed back into the etheric world. The angels then may use that body to produce miracles in Christian activity on the earth. Their activity will have a greater magnitude on humanity than a death under normal circumstances, or if there was no martyr at all. The martyr, often unknowingly, gives up their etheric body, their body of life, to powerful spiritual beings, and it is an act that can produce incredible shifts in the world. Thus, with death can come a certain kind of spiritual life on earth. The roses may take bloom. This is an unusual mystery, and one that is born out fully and to its highest degree in Christianity. This is why Christians glorify martyrs. It is not because we are some pathetic, depressed spiritual group, but rather because we understand that with death comes life, that only through the act of sacrifice can true love be known, and that if someone gives their life for something greater than themselves, they are sure to produce miracles on earth. It is spiritual law. And finally, she says, if the dark side knew this, they would never shed blood. They would never kill. Instead, they would remain silent. Ironically, it is their evil activity that draws in the highest angels, that produces their own exposure and failure. When their greed and malice brings destruction of a good man or a good woman, an angel of the highest magnitude appears in their stead, or in their stead. Let this be known to those who seek violence, and pray every soul know the love of God. So, very interesting. Very interesting. Which is another, like, in reading this, I was like, okay, I would like to know this person and talk to them. I've got so many questions. But it's an interesting way of looking at things. And why I think it's so fascinating is because this entire blog post, whatever you want to say, by Gigi Young about martyrs, is that this pays reference to like the mechanics I'm telling you about. This pays reference to the mechanics that I was telling you about. Like, what are the real mechanics of this all? What are those exchanges? What are the transactions that are made? What are the laws? I mean, we're given so much. We're given so much. You can say we're given just enough to be able to enjoy our life on earth, to prepare for a life beyond. But I mean, how many times have we been told that there's just so much we won't understand? This is part of it. So I don't know what you guys think about that, but I think it's pretty damn cool. Maybe we can bring it up another night. I'll definitely be keeping this handy, especially if Gigi comes on the show one day. We will see where that all goes. And thank you again to Andrew for contributing your thoughts about the psychedelic therapies. Oh, there's a lot. There's a lot. But you know what? We're going to jump into extra innings a little bit earlier tonight. A little bit earlier. I think that's a good place to end. So I just want to make sure that I got everybody feeling good, and thank you to everybody who's watching on Pilled, on D-Live. I'm going to release the treasure chest at some point here tonight. Rumble, everybody's been having a good time, though there's like barely any chat. There's many hundreds of people who are watching, many hundreds, but there's barely anybody talking. Maybe they're just relaxing, and you know what? Good for you if you are. And thank you to everybody on YouTube and elsewhere. ST says, love your breadth and depth, Frank. You are inspiring. We all are having a spiritual awakening. Well, this is more interesting to me than a lot of things, at least tonight. We'll always find new interesting things to do, but I love this. And Magavelli says, good evening, frankly. It's always a great show. Give me that bag. Steve Ellis says, Christ is King. Okay, so let me make sure I got everybody in here because I'm going to announce the winner. Magavelli, Steve Ellis. ST is already in there, but that's good. Benny's in there. Grace is in there. Good, good, good. All right, so here we go. Oh, wait, Gambera. Canberra over there on Pilled. You guys ready to see who's getting Chris Ann Hall's book and her DVD, signed book and DVD, and I will inscribe a little something in there as well. Here we go. Drum roll, everybody. Do it. Brrr. And the winner is Running on Empty. Run Anon Empty. I believe that was from YouTube, right? Running on Empty on YouTube. Congratulations to you, Running on Empty. There you go. So, Running on Empty, who I think has won in the past, email the show with your address, and I'm going to be getting this all out to you. I hope you enjoy it, but don't worry. I have another Sovereign Duty to give away sometime down the line. I've also got one of Chris Ann Hall's homeschooling books that is also signed. So I'll be able to do that when Cheryl Daly and Barbie Rivera come back on the show on September 30th to talk about homeschooling updates, micro-schooling updates, and all that stuff. I'll give it away that night. So many good things. Thank you all for supporting the show, because I know, again, everybody here tonight is going to be in the running for Friday. So even if you didn't win tonight, doesn't matter. You're in the running for Friday. and you've also helped me in a really gracious way. Thank you. I'm just trying to find fun ways for you guys to support the show, which is why the monthly subscribership, everybody, I'm always just putting out new perks, culture clubs, giveaways, all of the special broadcasts, the things that I have created on Pilled. That's what it is. I'm always thinking about new ways to thank you and to entice you to come on over and stick with me for the long haul. All the best. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Have a good night. Hold on. I'm not doing it tonight. Oh, no.
I'll catch you on the flip side.
How the hell did I don't know how I was deliberately trying to avoid that. So ridiculous some nights. Anyway, thank you guys. Thank you one and all. I'm going to go release and dump out the treasure chest over on D Live because it's been a while. Thank you. You've been great to me as always. And tomorrow is another night. Rich Barris will be on, and we're going to be talking about the polling reality of NDEs and the other paranormal work that he has done in the past. I can't imagine it has changed too much more, although it is interesting to think about how how the world might be getting worse. That's it. All right, goodbye. Come over to After Hours.
Goodbye.
All right, that's it. Thanks, everybody.
Will you shut up?